Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 25th day, folks. Yes, 25th day. We are 48 hours away from the NFL draft. We have the Aaron Rodgers thing taken care of. Now, what are we going to see in the first pick in the draft? Cannot wait. Tomorrow, going to have Richard Ferris going to talk about the draft. Going to talk about the Tennessee Titans. Rich Ferris came on the program a few weeks ago. He was really good. Going to have him come back on the program tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the NFL draft and uh, get his take on what the Tennessee should do, the Titans should do, the AFC South. But today, got a huge show tonight. Here in about the next few minutes, here about 10 minutes or so, going to have Coach Skip Hall, former college football coach, talk about his book, Coach 'em Up. I'm going to ask him some questions about that, but also going to do a quick take on yesterday's NBA games. Let's get our first and only break out of the way, and I'll hit the ground running here on SportsScope. Hello, SportsScope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and SportsScope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then, I'm back here live. Now, okay, so last night we had two games on. Milwaukee, I really thought they were going to win this game last night. They had Giannis back. He wasn't 100%. He ended up getting IVs during the press conference there. That's why he wasn't present there. He's playing through some lower back pain. Maybe it's this contusion is a little worse than they're being let on. Heck of a game by Jimmy Butler, 56 points. Did not see that coming, but it just goes to show you, like I've been talking about before on this program, that this Milwaukee team, they're going to need to get younger. Again, the Atlanta, there was a report that the Atlanta Hawks were shopping Trae Young. Maybe I've been hearing for the last 2 years that maybe Karl Anthony Towns, the Minnesota Timberwolves player, may get shopped. He would be a good fit there with Giannis. Brook Lopez is 35 years old. Middleton's in his 30s. I know Drew Holiday's 29. Maybe you keep Holiday. They're going to need some more scoring, somebody to pair with Giannis so he don't have to carry the load. We'll see. Now it's 3-1. I'm not ready to write them off totally. Maybe he gets that back in good shape. They push it to a 6 game. And remember, Game 7 would be played in Milwaukee. They were the 1 seed, best record in all of the NBA. But that being said, I don't see how far they can go with if this back is going to continue to bother Giannis. So this throws everything up in a loop. That's why I was leaning because of the depth of this Boston team and how they would match up against Milwaukee. They look to be the favorites in the East. Okay, now Memphis. Well, they played about the way I thought they would play. They kept it within 5 points. They pushed it to overtime. And, of course, they end up losing in overtime. Now they're down 3-1, okay? And you see all these memes going out and pictures of Ja Morant with these crazy falls and jumps and the still shots of him. People, making fun, saying he looks like he's going to the WWE, jumping off the top rope. You got guys like Matt Barnes, former NBA player, saying the floor is going to win. They look reckless. They have a really bad road record, particularly in the playoffs. And, I've been saying this before. I'm not in love with this head coach here. I think that this team is drafted really well, and they have won, particularly in the regular season, despite, I think, this guy, what's his name? Let me make sure I got it. Taylor Jenkins. I think he's got this team as far as they can go. Rick Bucher, NBA reporter. Now, he works with Fox Sports. He was with Bleacher Report, Washington Post, been around a very long time. Listen to him talk about Taylor Jenkins yesterday on the Colin Cowherd show, in the air quote team running itself, talking about the Memphis Grizzlies.
Question, I blame GM Zach Kleiman, and I blame head coach Taylor Jenkins. Because I've been around that team some this year, and the players run the show. And there's no it seems there's no accountability. It's not just that you're trying to rattle the cage of LeBron James. You're trying to rattle the cage of LeBron James with Dillon Brooks in the first game being played, playoff game, being played by the Lakers in LA since God knows when. The crowd was crazy.
Yeah, and they were booing him like nobody's business. He does all this talk there. Dillon Brooks has shown, his lack of maturity. He's 27. I thought he was like 21. Okay, you see that with Brooks. You see all the problems that Ja Morant's had. And quite frankly, I haven't seen any evolution. I haven't seen Ja Morant's game evolve. Ja Morant is turning into a combination between Russell Westbrook, Derrick Rose, and Allen Iverson. Everybody get out of the way and let me run and do a crazy play. If I fall and break my wrist, so be it. Instead of any kind of fluidity, you see the record-setting best ratings in 20 years for first round between the Kings and the Warriors. By the way, I did read today, folks, that it looks like that De'Aaron Fox is going to try to play. He's going to try to play through it. But that is good fluidity. Here's some other examples of this. They've got to the playoffs with Jenkins. But you think about other teams. Brad Stevens was replaced. He got Boston as far as he could get them. You need a coach to get in their rear end, to communicate, to get them to do what you ask them to do. Iman, as much as people want to criticize the guy's personal life and everything, I'm one of them. And what he did to get fired essentially from Boston, he did get that team to play and go farther than Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens, better role suited as maybe a college coach. Now he's playing the general manager role left by Danny Ainge, doing a really good job. Malcolm Brogdon, 6th man of the year. Boston looks to be in good shape. Another example, Mark Jackson. This team gets to the playoffs with Mark Jackson in Golden State. He gets them to play defense. They win a series, but they just seem limited offensively. They make the change from Mark Jackson. They get Steve Kerr. He gets them over the hump here. But Memphis is considered one of the deepest teams in the league. They actually play better with Tyus Jones as the backup point guard. So I think Jenkins would be the next shoe to drop if it's me. If it's me, I can see that they've kind of leveled out. They've leveled out as a team. They're still pretty young in some spots. Maybe you can add a veteran here or there. They're a very deep team. So they need a guy to get these guys to buy in to not playing reckless basketball and get guys like Dillon Brooks in check. Play your game. Just don't go over the line, man. He's been over the line. Ja's playing reckless basketball, out of control, and so be it, if you ask me. So be it. Carlos says you can't coach desire. Same situation in Philly. Yeah, and a lot of people's pushing for Doc Rivers. Now, of course, they won their last game in a sweep, but let's see how they do in this next round. Of course, Joel Embiid cannot stay healthy. That's really been the story of these playoffs, folks. I mean, you got Embiid, 50% chance he may come back in the next round. You've got Giannis. He's going to try to play through it. You've got the index finger there with De'Aaron Fox. Kawhi Leonard's missed the last 2 games. That series is essentially over. The Clippers series, Paul George still out. What's his name? Julius Randle. Randle with the Knicks. He's playing hurt, but at least he's gutting it out now. He was benched, and of course they went on and won the game there. The players really like and respect what Tom Thibodeau, including Carlos. I don't know if you heard my soundbite the other day. I may have not played that. When I was preparing for yesterday's show, Draymond Green says he respects the heck out of Tom Thibodeau. He really likes Tom Thibodeau. So it's going to be an interesting off season. I could see a Karl Anthony Towns potentially getting moved. I could see a Trae Young potentially getting moved. And possibly, if it's me, if I'm some of these other teams around the league, I contact this Dallas Maverick team and ask them about Luka and what to do. And, of course, Pickle says Steven Adams. Yeah, Adams has got a pretty bad injury. I doubt if he will be back in these playoffs. I think the Lakers, some are saying maybe Memphis wins that game 6. I said the Lakers in 6, so it's probably what it's going to be. Probably going to be the Lakers in 6. They simply just match up better the way Memphis is constructed now. And without any further delay here, folks, let me get my notes situated here. And switching gears, let me give Skip Hall his introduction here. Skip Hall was an assistant coach at Colorado, Kent State, Washington. He was assistant under a top 50 all-time coach in Don James. This is according to 2 different websites. I want to say Bleacher Report and ESPN. He coached with Nick Saban, then the head coach of Boise State and assistant Missouri for nearly 30 years. Successful business career with Aflac and Principal Financial Group in Boise, Idaho. Also has a weekly radio show called Game Plan for Life on 94.1 out of Boise, Idaho, and author of the book. I just got it in the mail. I know Coach can see me behind backstage here. I got this from Amazon on Sunday night. They sent me a picture and sent me an email, dropped it off at my door. Coach 'em Up, the Skip Hall story, how the power of influence and encouragement changes lives. Welcome to the program, Coach.
Wow, what a great introduction. I could have listened to that all night. In fact, for a while there, I thought I might have to.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I wanted to bring you in right,
Yes, sir. I'm pleased to be on your program. Thank you much for having me.
Yeah. I wanted to thank you. That made my day when John McGraw, Mac, reached out the other day and said, hey, Coach Skip Hall would like to come on. I was like, really? Okay. Man, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much,
Yes, sir.
So let me ask you about this book. So what made you want to write a book?
Well, after 30 plus years of coaching at the college level, I was never interested in going on into the professional level because of the educational aspect. I wanted to stay within the college realm, and I stayed for 30 years, and then I went into business management for another 15. And there was a lady that lived here in the area. There was a publisher, Aloha Publisher, and she kept after me. She heard me speak at a number of places, and she said, Skip, you need to write a book. Well, when the pandemic hit, it was a perfect time. So I said, all right, Mariana, let's go. Let's write the book.
Yeah. And I got some quotes out of the book here, folks. You can get this. And by the way, I've got it at the bottom of the screen, coachemupbook.com or Amazon, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. This is, let me see I get my notes here. It looks like, let me see. Yeah, Billy Graham. A coach will impact more people in 1 year than the average person in a lifetime. I got that. So what made you want to put that? When did you hear that quote from the great Billy Graham?
I've heard that for many, many years. And as I thought back about my life and the people I've had a chance to influence, I mean, it is so true. A coach has a platform, a tremendous platform to help influence people. And that is what it's all about from a coach's standpoint.
Yeah, yeah. I love Nick Saban's speeches. So let me ask you this: what made you want to get into coaching? Let's take it back to start back from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, in the book, it talks about my high school coach, Coach Charlie.
Okay.
Coach Charlie was my inspiration. And after I was done with college and got into coaching in high school at first, but then went into a college coaching search and was at Colorado, Kent State, Washington, Boise State, Missouri. And yeah, I just felt my calling was to be a coach and to encourage people, young people, like I had been encouraged.
Yeah, yeah. And at what point did you? I mean, it seems like such a difficult profession to get in. When did it dawn on you that, hey, I could be successful at this? I mean, would you like a
Well,
grad assistant at Colorado? Yeah.
well, in my high school head coaching career, we went 23-1. So
Okay.
all I knew was huge success, and I wanted to try it at the college level. So
Yeah.
went to the University of Colorado and got in the first year, 1969. We beat Alabama in the bowl game, Bear Bryant, and
Oh, wow.
that really helped me. And decide I wanted to be a college coach. And one thing I want to share,
Yeah.
I learned a great inspirational message from Bear Bryant that day, because there was a banquet back in those days where after the game you'd have a banquet. I was walking to the restroom. Out of the restroom comes right at me Bear Bryant. So what do you say to Bear Bryant? You're a 25-year-old
Yeah.
wet behind the ears coach. And I just went up to him. I said, Coach Bryant, my name is Skip Hall. I just want to say thank you so much for what you've done in the profession. He grabbed my hand, his big old paw, and he looked at me and he said, Skipper, how have you been? How have you been? You know what? That told me that great leaders have not only strength, but warmth. He had strength and he had warmth.
Yeah.
Two very important characteristics for a leader.
Yeah. And that the warmth part. I mean, you don't really see a lot of that. Consistently. And some of my audience here, Carlos says, "Hey, coach." Corey says, "Welcome, coach." And I'm really glad to have you on. So then you move on to Kent State, and then you coached the great Nick Saban. When did you see? When did you see that there may be something special about Nick, or maybe you didn't see it then? He just like one of the other guys. He just kind of hung in there,
Yeah, no. Nick was a tremendous competitor. I mean, he couldn't stand to lose, and he wouldn't stand for himself messing up or anybody else. And so we had a few years together there at Kent State. A couple for him as a player, and then we coached together for 2 years. And he wrote the foreword to my book, Coach 'Em Up,
Yes.
which we'll probably talk about. But
Yeah.
Nick was with Nick. You could see the leadership qualities in Nick at an early age.
Oh, wow. So what did you think when he left there? What's the level of success this guy's going to become, or just maybe he's met a lot of guys like Nick Saban, and some just kind of got comfortable, with just an average job that was maybe being a coordinator the whole career.
Yeah. Well, thing about coaches, they're like players; they grow too. And each place you're at, there's more growth. You get under great coaches like Bill Belichick, which Nick
Yeah.
was under as well. Don James was our coach, and Don was one of the top college coaches in history for sure.
Yeah.
And Nick will tell you that to this day. But he served under other head coaches that were very good as well, and he learned a lot. And then he put his own philosophy together. He went to Michigan State as a head coach. He went to LSU as a head coach. He went to the pros as a head coach for a while, but that wasn't for him. And then Alabama called, and Alabama was a homecoming for him. It was he'd learned enough that now it was time to go to Bama.
Yeah. Did you think that he was going to go back to the pros at any time?
No.
You think he was going to stay at Alabama?
Yep, no, he's not going back to the pros. I mean, it's a whole different ball game, pros versus college. No, he's not going back to the pros.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you met Saban, and of course the great. You just said his name earlier. I'm drawing blanks.
Jack Lambert?
No. I was going to say the Alabama legend there, Bear Bryant.
Oh, Bear Bryant,
Did you see the similarities between the two coaches?
Yeah, at a younger age, absolutely. Oh, wow. Yeah. Nick and Bear had very similar qualities. And of course, Nick hadn't proved himself yet, like Bear, but he had the qualities, and he got the education he needed under other head coaches, and then finally went on and got his own head coaching job and Michigan State. And Nick doesn't put up with any mistakes. It's a tough job to work with Nick. He doesn't put up with any mistakes. And boy, you better be on your game.
Yeah. He's one of those perfectionist type, man. I mean, he feels like, I've outworked everybody. I'm totally into this. If something don't go just right, I'm just going to totally blow up and get frustrated. I see him on the sideline all the time blowing up,
He can barely contain himself sometimes.
Yeah, I hear you.
But he's married to a wonderful gal, and she keeps she keeps him under control, and that's what we need. Coaches need coaches' wives that can balance them out.
Yeah. Mike Leach, I remember him talking about that.
You bet.
It's such a long road to become successful. He says, I want to say the first 10 years of his career, he made less money than his wife, and she was like an administrative assistant or something.
Yep.
So I mean, you really got to have a lot of stamina and all that moving to make it in coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that is so true.
Yeah. Let's see. I was looking at some more questions here. So how did you get joined with Don James at Kent State? How did that
Well, after I was a head high school coach in Minnesota. We're from Minnesota boy. And after 3 years of went to Concordia College, Moorhead, Minnesota. We won a national championship, which was NAIA in 1964. I graduated in 1966. And one of the coaches at Concordia came up to me and said, how would you like to apply for a head coaching job at this high school, Henning High School in Minnesota, that he was familiar with? And I said, sure. So I did, and went down, interviewed, got the job. We moved to this town of about 900 people, including dogs and cats and anything else. And we had just tremendous success. Like I say, we were 23-1. And so I got the thought that, wow, I want to get my master's degree, but I also want to check out college coaching. And so we went to the University of Colorado, is where I met Don James. Don James was the defensive coordinator at Colorado at that time.
Okay.
And we became good friends. And of course, when he moved to Kent State, he asked us to come along as an assistant. And that began, 4 years at Kent State, and then took us with him to Washington, 12 years there,
Yeah.
12 bowl games, 3 Rose Bowls, Warren Moon, on and on. Yeah, it was. We call
Yeah.
we call those our glorious years.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I've heard Colin Cowherd from Eastern Washington. Uh, he talks about Don James
Yep.
all the time, and the glory days there. Uh, you know, makes me think about that 91. So they go undefeated in 91 when
Yes.
he was there, and they split the national championship.
Right.
You know, do you think that Washington team was better?
Yep. I
Were
think
they
if they
better
had
than
met, if
Miami?
they'd have played Miami, they'd have kicked their tails. My son was coaching at Washington at that time, and I
Okay.
mean, there were some tremendous players at Washington and at Miami also. But I think if you'd have put the two on the same field, I think Washington would have won the game.
Yeah, yeah. And so, what is your thoughts on the playoff system? I mean, you're part of that, program for a number of years. They split a national championship. I mean, it seems like it's been, needed for a long time.
Yes, it has. And the thing that I'm pleased about is that they're going to go to a 12-team format,
Yeah,
which gives teams like Boise State, where I coached here for 6
yeah,
years, and they've had some great teams over the years, undefeated teams, beat Oklahoma in a bowl game, and it just gives teams like that on the edge, so to speak, a chance to play for the national championship, which I think is awesome.
yeah, yeah. I was just wondering about that. Now, NIL seems to be here to stay, and the
Yeah, that's a
transfer portal.
headache.
I
That's a
know you
headache.
probably hate it, Coach.
Yeah, it's a headache. I certainly wouldn't want to coach under that, but you know what? It is what it is. The rich
Yeah.
are going to get richer, and the others are going to have to struggle for what they can get.
Yeah. So how would you deal with that? Say you're a young coach, you're still hungry, and you're thrown into this. How would you go about dealing with something like this?
You know what? You just go about your business. You recruit the best players you can. You coach them up, and that's all you can do. And let the chips fall where they fall. If boosters or whoever business owners want to come in and chip into an NIL program that helps benefit the players, oh, that's great. My philosophy would be if you're going to pay players, let's
Yeah.
pay them all. Let's pay them all. All the scholarship players. Let's pay them all so that
Yeah.
they all benefit, not just one or two or three.
Yeah. Do you see that changing in the near future? Well, maybe there's companies set up something like that for pay all 85, even if it's not a big chunk of money.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like this stuff is also new that, the other thing that bugs me is this transfer portal. Man, that would absolutely drive me crazy. Here you spend all this time, all this money recruiting somebody, he comes into the program, and then he gets there his first year, then he wants to transfer. He goes into the transfer portal. You
Yeah.
saw what happened to Colorado today or
Yeah.
yesterday. I mean, 20 some players are in the transfer portal. Well,
Right.
that to me is just bizarre.
Yeah. Deion Sanders is saying he's doing the 40-40-20, Coach. Grad transfer, undergrad transfer, 20% recruiting. Do you see that model withstanding from Deion?
No, not for the long haul, for sure. Not for the long haul. No, you've got to recruit top talent as best as you can get
Yeah.
and bring them in, and you need to have them there for 4 or 5 years. Now, that doesn't mean you can't dip into the transfer portal for some help here or there wherever you need it. But boy, you got to depend on the long haul. The players, the young players that come in, they're the key.
Do you think that for Deion, do you think that he sees it that way? He's just trying to turn 11-1, a 1-11 team to like a 10-2 team, and then trying to just use Colorado as a stepping stone.
Yeah, he's trying to make a statement the first year as best he can.
Yeah.
But you'll find out that he's going to need to build in for the long haul. He's going to need to get freshmen that are coming in that are going to be there for 4 or 5 years. And yeah, he's trying to get something started. And once he gets it started, why then he'll add to it.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. So going back to your situation here now, so you took the Boise State head coach. What is the biggest difference between being a coordinator than being a head coach? How did you make that transition?
Well, let me tell you, there's no manual for becoming a head coach. But fortunately, I had a head coach that was truly amazing.
Yeah.
And he helped me so much over the years. I was with Don James for 18 years.
Yeah.
And he helped me so much that when the Boise State people called and said, we want you to come up here, I was ready because of my training through the head coach.
Yeah. So you stay there 5 years, and then so why did you get out of coaching at that point?
Well, I stayed at Boise State for 6 years. We had great success. We helped change the culture there. We went to the national semifinals there. It was Division I AA at that time.
Oh, wow.
We went to Missouri for 4 years after Boise State.
Oh, that's
became
right.
the associate head coach to Bob Stahl and to Larry Smith. And then after 30 years, we decided, you know what? We've had a great run. We need to go and travel some. We need to be with our kids. And so that's what we did. We moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and Aflac recruited me. And then I had another 15 plus years with Aflac, great years. And in fact, helped introduce Nick Saban. If you watch TV and see the commercials, you'll see Nick Saban on the Aflac commercial. Well, we helped introduce him to Aflac.
Wow. It's just a small world. I've always heard that. It's a coaching fraternity. And you still stay in touch with these guys.
Oh, right? Yeah. We went to Alabama for a game here a couple of years ago. And we went in. I called Nick. I said, Nick, we're coming to the game. If you got any time? He said, absolutely. You come on in. Well, it was game day, noon on a game day. He was playing Tennessee that night, and we went in, had a great time with them. And of course, they won the game. And so Nick's been a loyal friend, and he wrote, as I mentioned, the foreword to my book.
Yeah, and you've got a quote here from Coach Chris Petersen.
Yep.
Do you think, by the way, I think he's the best coach in the past 25 years that has not won a national championship. I mean, I love Chris Petersen. Do you think he'll ever come out of retirement for the right opportunity?
I talked to Chris a lot. I helped him get the job at Washington. He got burned out. I don't think he's ready yet to come back in. It doesn't say he won't, but he needed a break. He needed to get away from the game. It was eating him up. And then all this stuff with the NIL and the transfer portal came into play, and he doesn't like any of that stuff. And, he wants to recruit good players, coach them up. And that's what he's all about.
Yeah. I'm out of Tennessee. Now, Josh Heupel, he's had success. He's a big surprise for us. I mean, I thought he was just not going to do anything here at Tennessee, University of Tennessee. And, of course, he ends up beating Alabama last year. But I was telling people, I want Tennessee go after Chris Petersen. Make him an offer he can't refuse.
Well, a lot of teams have. And, the other thing about Chris Petersen and his wife and family, they're Northwest people. He went to school in California, but they loved the Northwest, Boise. They love Seattle, and they still live in Seattle. He still does a lot of speaking, inspirational stuff, and so I think he's content for the moment. But you know what? You never know.
Yeah. Well, it's really humid down here. I don't know if he'll like it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know that. Yeah, we played one year at Alabama, and
yeah,
we had Bear scared to death. I think he thought he had killed us.
yeah. Oh
It was
man.
so hot and humid that yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, Pickle's one of my listeners. He says, um, where were you when SMU had the Pony Express? I guess he's talking about the Panda players, Craig James and that bunch. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
SMU, absolutely.
yeah. But yeah, so everybody, coach them up. The Skip Hall story. So, how did you get into this radio show? I'm interested to hear about this.
Well, after coaching, I worked with Aflac for quite a few years, and then
Yeah.
they had me traveling the country and speaking to their leadership teams, about coaching and team building and that kind of stuff. And I spent a number of years at that. And then finally, when I was done traveling, we came back and met with a radio show owners that wanted me to come on and do a daily show. And I said,
Yeah.
I just don't think I can do that. But I could do a weekly show.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they went for. And so I have a weekly show now called Game Plan for Life. I interview a lot of celebrities, business leaders, ministry leaders,
Hmm.
uh, people from all walks of life that have a story. The whole
Yeah.
thing is about the story. Everybody, all of us have a story to tell.
Yeah.
And it's so refreshing to hear all these stories that come out.
Yeah. So is this like a faith-based radio station?
Yes and no. Yes and no. It has some of it, to that, but
Yeah.
it's not just all about that. It's a yes and no.
Oh, okay. Okay. Game plan for life. I was making some notes here, and coaches are very organized. I could see you've been really successful in life and everything. How do you create new habits? If new good habits, because it's just a series of good habits become successful. But people to get in their routines. That you want to watch TV at this time, no matter what, instead of reading. How do you? Can you put in words? How do you do something? How do you change bad habits and create good ones?
I can tell you in one word: discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline is the key, and that's what changes lives. From a professional standpoint,
Yeah.
you have to be disciplined. You have to set your schedule. You have to work your schedule. You have to keep going. You hope that somebody else pays attention to it.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, you might get this call, that call, or promotion, or this and that. But it's all about discipline. I don't think our younger people have the discipline today, other than in sports and athletics. And
Yeah.
it's discipline is such a huge factor. In fact, I want to share something with you
Sure.
that I really believe that. I believe sports will engage more individuals, more families, and more communities in a shared activity than any other cultural activity, organization, or religion in America. Now,
Yeah.
that's a mouthful,
Yeah.
but I think it's so true, and it's about the discipline that goes into it.
So it's not really, and I've started to notice that. I mean, I do this show. I started this from the ground up. I don't have any connection. I don't know anybody. I didn't play ball anywhere. I just started this from my phone, coach.
Yep,
And I've realized that success is just a series of habits playing the long game. I
it
mean,
is.
you had a long journey,
Yep,
you
yep,
know,
yep,
and it's
yep.
not
But
always about nepotism or just talent.
no, 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 no. It's about discipline. It's about choosing what you believe and then sticking with it. Day after day after day, and the discipline of doing the hard things
Yeah.
because that's what it takes.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is your What's your biggest do you have any regrets in your career? Rather
The
it be
only
a
regrets I have are the games we lost.
yeah. So
No, I
that's what
don't. I
Mickey
don't.
always talks about that. I remember more about the games we lost than the ones we won.
Yeah, yeah. When I was a high school coach, we were 23-1, as I mentioned. But
Yeah.
the only game I remember is a game we lost, and I can still picture that today. But
Yeah.
you know what? Those are teachers. Those are lessons learned along the way
Yeah.
that we need to put into place.
Right. Right. Seem to learn more from your losses than you do your wins.
Yeah, yeah. Losses, people say, well, how do you handle a loss? I said, well, number one, I don't like it. But number two, we're going to learn from it. It's going to help us get better. So losses are learning opportunities for the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Joy wouldn't feel so good if it wasn't for pain, right? If you
Exactly.
went undefeated in every game,
Yeah, yeah,
it probably
yeah,
wouldn't be as
yeah.
exciting.
Right.
One of my listeners, he says, Coach, thoughts on the Shanahan system. Do you watch any NFL?
Some, yeah, some.
He's talking about, Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan. He said, what's your system in the NFL and now how coaches mimic these plays? What's your thoughts on the Shanahan system with that zone block and running scheme and everything?
Well, systems that work, you keep doing it. The key, the NFL is all about money.
Yeah.
And they have to win or they're gone quickly. The systems that they choose to use, they have to work or they're gone. So I think the key is the system that you have, whether it's the Shanahan system or any other system. If it works, that's great.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, not so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you stay up? Bobby Bowden used to say this all the time.
Bobby's a friend. Who was a friend?
Was he really?
Yes,
Did you
sir.
stay up late and watch games from other teams and say, we can use that. We can use this in the red zone. Somebody like Andy Reid or something like that.
Yep. I'll tell you this too, that Andy Reid is kind of a disciple of the Don James regime, because Bob Stahl, who was with me at Washington, and Don James became the head coach at Missouri, and Andy Reid was on the staff. And then he went to the pro. So Andy learned the Don James system through our coaches. But ask me that question again. You asked. I got off track there.
About essentially using other teams' formation plays, copycat lead. I mean, how much did you do with that?
Yeah. You learn a ton from other coaches. My mentors were Tom Landry, Bobby Bowden, because they were strong Christian men that really knew what they were doing. Don James, you learn from those kind of guys. You also watch a ton of TV. You see games on TV. You watch what they're doing, and you say, you know what, that looks pretty good. Let's take a look at that. So, yeah, you never stop learning. When you stop learning, you start losing. And that's the key in coaching football.
Wow. Yeah. Talking with Coach Skip Hall, though some new viewers came in here, how the power of influence and encouragement changes lives. Here, who is the most talented player you've ever coached, in your opinion?
Well, of course, Nick Saban was a good player. He wasn't the most talented.
Right.
Most talented were guys like Jack Lambert.
Man.
And Warren Moon.
Yeah.
Jack Lambert, Warren Moon, those guys had the talent. Nick was just a ferocious competitor.
Yeah. Was he the hardest working player you coached?
Oh yeah, he was as hard as working as anybody. He didn't give up for sure.
Oh man, Warren Moon. Wow. Uh, what do you? What's your thoughts on how would you rate Warren Moon as far as being a Hall of Fame? Do you think that maybe he probably could have won a Super Bowl with the right team?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. You know, the story about Warren Moon, we brought him in from a junior college in California, and he came in, and his first year as a junior, he wasn't really very good. And the fans were booing him, and
Oh
Don
wow.
James was taking heat after the game on the radio shows. But Don James had the tenacity to stick with Warren. And he told Warren that I'm sticking with you. And the next year, his Warren's senior year, 1977,
Okay.
we won the championship in what's now the Pac-12, Pac-10 back then, or Pac-8, I can't remember. But anyway, we won the championship, and we went and beat Michigan, who was a 3-touchdown favorite in the Rose Bowl. And
Woo.
Warren led the way. And yep, he proved to me that he could do it. He could do it at that level. He can do it at the NFL level too.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just talking about, Jalen Hurts, former Alabama player. He gets a huge contract last week. And just the power of hard work, coach. Some player, I didn't think he was going to do anything in the NFL. He had problems making his second reads.
Right.
And, you could tell who, a lot of guys have cliches and you say, well, they're the first in and the last to leave. But the truth of them, I remember Tony Gonzalez, tight end for Hall of Fame tight end, says 4% of the NFL players are actually dedicated to getting better. He said the rest of them are essentially there for the money and they're stagnant,
Yep.
So, so you're saying Warren Moon was one of those guys that really, you could tell he was putting in the work behind the scenes.
Right. Yep. That's the difference. That's the key. Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see if I had anything else for you, Coach. And you said something the other day before we got cut off the other day. I'm glad you've been able to come on about your.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. I had a backup. You could have called in. I have a stand here. I could have put you on speakerphone, Coach. I was wanting to ask you, you said something about your love for sports talk radio, and we got cut off last Thursday. What was you starting to see? Can you remember what you were about to say?
Well, sports talk radio is obviously huge in this day and age. Back when I was coaching in the early years, it wasn't nearly what it is today.
Yeah.
But it gets people involved. It brings people, gets them excited. But the thing I fear the most is that sports talk sometimes gets carried away, and they lose sight of what's really going on and what should be, happening. So it's both good and bad in my view. And there's a lot of great sports, people like yourself that put on these programs.
I appreciate it, Coach. Thank you.
and talk about important things and not stuff that's, fluff or out there that, isn't going to matter.
I think it brings people together, with all these, the protest and everything and the division that came out of the flag, people protesting the flag with the Colin Kaepernick and everything. And my thing is, sports, it brings communities together. People who may not believe the same beliefs, they may be of a different race and different nationality, a different sex. You're both liking, I'm out of Nashville, the Tennessee Titans or the Washington Huskies. And people don't know each other from a hole in the ground, but we're at the stadium together, Coach. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
I like the way it bonds communities together.
Yep.
Okay. Sound like I hear something in the background.
Yeah, hold on just a second. Hey, Virginia?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, there we got that cut off.
I'm sorry about that. So how did you know? How did you figure out my show? Did you see me on the Mac and Jack Jim Jeffcoat show or what?
Yeah, Mac and Jack suggested that I talk to you, and I think he put his foot forward and suggested it, and I'm sure glad he did. And I want to thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah,
It's been a real pleasure.
thank you. Is there anything else you need to plug here?
No, I would just say that the book that's out there, it's an award-winning book. It received a medal from the North American Awards uh, Book Association, and it's about how the power of influence and encouragement changes lives.
Yeah.
Of course, it's my story, it's my whole coaching career, all the places, but it's so much more than that. It's about how you treat people, how you coach them up. You know, the title of the book is Coach Them Up, how you coach people up and not down. So it's a book that's recommended for everybody, even housewives, mothers, fathers, business people, coaches, of course, but yeah, it suits everybody. So they can get it by going to coachemupbook.com or going to Amazon. And
I got
that's the
mine
way
in
to
3
get it.
days from Amazon
Yep.
Prime.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Hey,
they'll get it out there. And then a
what's
lot
with
of
the
a
blue
lot of
turf,
people
Coach?
you'll recognize in the book. And of course Nick
Yes.
Saban wrote the forward to it. And yeah, I'm really appreciative of how that book turned out, and most of all the message that it carries.
Yeah.
Coach 'em up.
Yeah, awesome. Fun question, real quick, not to hold you too long. What's the blue turf at Boise? What's with that blue turf?
Well, I came into Boise State as the new head coach in 1987. They had just laid down the blue turf in 1986, and everybody was not happy. A lot of people thought, "What in the world is that?"
Yeah.
And but it took some time. People would ask me, "Well, what do you think about the blue?" The media would ask me, "What do you think about the blue turf?" I say, "Well, I don't know. It's the same length, same width. I guess I'm good." But they kept asking. So I asked my wife. They keep asking about the blue turf. What am I supposed to tell them? She said, "Well, look, you tell them it matches your eyes, so you're going to look good on the sideline."
So you really didn't know.
That shut them up.
How ironic. That's like your first year. So you got to talk more about the turf than your next opponent.
That's right. Yeah, they were all wondering about the field.
Pickles says, it kept me up late watching the games at Boise State.
Well, at least when the game comes on TV, people know who's on.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they see that blue field. There's no doubt about who's playing.
Yeah. What's the chances you think I can get Saban on here? How would that conversation go?
That's a tough one. I have no idea. You'd have to go through the athletic department. I'm sure he's got people that work on that. And yeah, he's hard to get because he's in so much demand. And but if you want to check it out, go through the athletic department, and that'd be the way to go.
Yeah, I can see you say, you asking Nick Saban. I wonder how that will, Coach. In all due respect, I don't have time to do podcasts and web shows. I barely got time. I know how he is. I listen to him all the time.
Oh yeah. He's got his schedule and sticks to it pretty close.
Yeah, he probably manages his minutes. Somebody asked him. He said, "Coach, how come you eat the same cupcake every day?" He said, "Because that's one less decision I got to make."
That's right. Absolutely. I interviewed George Foreman one time on my radio show, and I asked George. I said, "George, how come you got about 4 or 5 sons and you named them all George? Why'd you name them all George?" He said, "Well, he was a heavyweight champion of the world." Yeah. He said, "In boxing, you get hit a lot, so I don't want to forget their name."
I've always wondered that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he said. I don't want to forget their names. So he named them all George.
Wow. Wow. Now, George, come here. Wait a minute. So if they all turn around at the same time, if somebody's getting in trouble, you know, that is funny, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you doing? Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Any more? Who was the biggest celebrity you've your most interesting interview on that radio show? Was it George Foreman?
Well, George was certainly right up there at the top. Yeah, I've had a number of them. A lot of them are local that you don't know about, but
Yeah.
yeah, but George was right up there at the top, and absolutely from a national perspective, you bet.
Yeah. Anybody else stick out? Do you think, man, that's uh this
Well,
person?
again, they're local people, all
Yeah.
very, very important folks that have done a wonderful job, great
Yeah.
stories to tell, but you probably wouldn't know of them.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear. Well,
yeah.
George Foreman, he's got a movie coming out.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. But
Yeah.
you know what else? Another thing he told me, he said, I've made more money on that grill than I ever made in boxing.
I know. I know. Yeah, the wrestler Hulk Hogan says, people ask him, they say, how can you call everybody brother? He said, I just couldn't remember everybody's name. So that's kind of
That's right.
the
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Skip Hall, everybody. Thank you, sir. And hey, you know what? Can I bring it back on after I read this thing? Maybe I just now got it in the mail, by the way.
Oh, sure, you bet. Just let me know.
Okay, I've got your number, and thank you anyway. Thanks again, and hope to see you back. Maybe we could talk a little college football as the season comes along.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it. And thank you so much for having me on. It's been
You,
a real pleasure.
you got it, man. Thanks.
You
All
bet.
right. All right, everybody. Now, tomorrow I'll be back on with Rich Ferris here. Yeah, it's all about George Foreman. Yeah, yeah. I'll have Rich Ferris coming on, or yeah, Rich. We're going to be talking about the draft, the Tennessee Titans, and the AFC South here. So we'll be going over everything. Make sure and tune in 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Good audience tonight here. Coach Hall, great guy there. And I will see you all tomorrow, same time, same place. And make sure, folks, share the show. If you like the show, please share the show. Okay, please share the show. And if you have not subscribed, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Sports Scope YouTube channel, just like it says at the top of your screen. Thank you, everybody.